What was,
I've got something on my glasses I can't see.
How'd you get that last time you moved that camera? I know you fell. Oh, here we go.
There you go.
Hey, I'm getting a- Hi, are we live?
Yes, you're going.
Yeah, I see it.
There you are right there.
Okay. All right, I'll call you later, okay?
All right.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Where do you want it this way? Wind it? Big camera, and then I have the arrows. You can see that person, and you can see Jane. Okay. All right.
Mary Walters, she's second grade teacher at Southside, or at Southside.
Mary, yes.
Yeah. I'm not looking.
First one.
hi, Jill.
How are you, Jim?
It's raining pretty good on the north side.
Yeah, it was.
It was pouring.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really?
Okay. You. You have them written down or anything? You can have them make the copies.
Let me write it down real quick.
Well, they're gonna have baseball.
I wouldn't bet on it.
Wouldn't bet on it.
July.
Think
Did
so?
you read some of the things that they want them to do? No fist bumps, no mascots, no.
Spitting.
No spitting.
One of the big ones
Yeah,
gonna be
no
spitting.
sunflower
I guess.
seeds.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
dugout, the
No
dugout's
video
gonna be spread out.
cameras, you know, the build, none of that.
Wow.
The coaches can't get close to the players or, you know, umpires on the bays. Ridiculous stuff.
Yep.
And they have to wear uniforms to the ballpark. They can't change there. No steam baths, no.
Especially too, like what's strange is that they're pre-tested before they even go.
Right.
Yeah, that's true.
And so you can't be within 6 feet of two known parties who are not infected. What sense does that make?
Sharon had to get that test.
Oh, for surgery.
She said it was like a brush on the back of your.
Oh.
Yeah. there you go.
They go through your
Back of your
nose.
head.
She goes, it felt like a brush. And she was like, just when she was getting ready to say ouch, they pulled it out. Some of those people do that every day, right? I mean,
Ugh.
Yeah.
Catherine's not calling in either, is she?
when I asked her if she wanted to, if she was going to be here or participate, she had a migraine. She wasn't going to participate. So.
Hmm.
Unless that change, I said if that changes, let me know.
No.
She did?
She did?
Oh,
Was it yesterday?
she was a fun lady.
Oh, was she at the high school? I didn't know that.
She was
I did not know that.
funny. Oh, was she?
67.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like this is in my knows.
Yeah, put that in front of you there,
Well, at least now it's on the right side. Robin, you'll have to watch her, because if you talk towards the front, you'll be away from your mic. So there, that probably will,
Thank you.
they couldn't hear me last meeting.
The device type's all the same.
The HPs are also tablet, folds on the back backwards, and also tablet. Nice.
So at least get longer and longer.
Shows the price getting higher. They're harder to come, they can't, yeah. They're hard to come by these days. Anything mobile.
Just trying to get HP to talk to us, give us pricing.
Yeah, that's, we just got it. Yeah, I had a Surface and just got this HP about 2 weeks ago, so. I should see that one.
Oh, I can,
Yeah,
listen, like, is that-
it's the converter. Yeah. So
I think
like,
I
yeah,
can
this is a
have
dragon
anybody
fly
here
or
or
something.
something.
Not
Nice.
with,
Yeah,
Well,
it's getting so long, it won't do anything.
Solid state drives.
Yeah, which
She
is
said,
neat, so.
I can do it on the 29th at 9:00. I said, "God, it's like 2 weeks.
That doesn't help, does it?
It's good.
Is that when they're allowed to open back up?
I guess, it's on a Friday.
I thought it was June.
Right.
It's June first.
That's what I thought.
Well, I'm not saying.
Do we have this because we're talking about it?
Yeah,
Where is it in the agenda?
it was under,
It was under the consent agenda.
Okay,
We're gonna move it to discussion after closed session.
okay.
Sorry.
okay, so we're just trying
We're gonna go ahead and call our meeting to order. If we can all rise and say the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jane, can you get a roll call?
Steve Bone?
Yes.
Angie Myers?
Yes.
Rod Foster?
Yes.
Fran Molnar?
Yes.
Jill?
Yes.
Due to the COVID-19 issues, we had asked anybody who wished to address the board to email Mr. Doan. Did we have any?
no, I did not.
Then we'll go ahead and move on to the financial report with Mr. Fox.
Okay. Last month, we saw net fund balances in the amount of $28,444,348.87. Operating funds totaling $19,407,308.77. And of the total funds, HLS funds total $6,463,147.22. And those begin being listed out on page 4 of your packet. Revenue, the education funds saw revenue from local, $295,853. From state in the amount of $576,664.75. And from the federal government, $39,082.73. Those are listed out on page 13. Expenses over $5,000 are listed out separately, beginning on page 14. And recommendations this month would be to reimburse the interest account in the amount of $2 and the payment of bills in the amount of $964,112.82. And of that, HLS work made up $264,284.36. And that's listed out on page 19, the beginning of the bills. Can I answer any questions for anybody?
I did have a couple, and mostly just clarification, because I should have probably said these earlier, but the Versatran expense, I know that's the transportation software. Is that like an annual fee that we're paying? We pay
Yes.
that every year?
Yes.
Okay, that was one of my questions. And then there was a $1,600 payment to Amazon. It says tort.
That would, oh, yes, that was a mask and hand sanitizer that we ordered for the district.
Okay, and then there were a couple that I just didn't understand. There was an IT Savvy LLC, and it says TBR, EJHS, and CSPDO.
So that would be a technology purchase made by the PTO at the junior high. So TBR is to be reimbursed. So the district buys all those, and then the parent-teacher organization or that fund reimburses the board office.
Okay, there was another one like that too, Rochester, but it's a TBR.
We started doing
I
that.
didn't know that's what that meant.
We wanted to make sure that the district office knew the equipment being purchased so we could get it in inventory in
Right.
case something happened. So we make all those purchases come through the board office, and then the individual schools just reimburse us out of those accounts.
Okay, I think I have one more. Okay, and one said Jennifer Fox, 500, and then it said teacher. That was all.
That was Teacher Appreciation Week.
Oh.
Gift cards for both preschool and kindergarten, parapros and teachers.
Okay.
I remember when we talked last month about buying, well, now I guess we can now because they've been mailed out. The district bought we're thinking about talking about hands. We got gift cards. I did not know that. I had not talked to Jennifer. I thought everybody had not done nobody had done
Okay, so
anything.
she did ELC.
She had already
We did.
had that planned, and
Okay.
so
So does each building get a budget though for that?
No, each building usually does that out of either parent teacher. That's where like kindergarten came out of the parent teacher fund. A lot of the schools use an activity fund where they collect money over time and then use that to buy those, but it does not come out of a district budget.
But the building, I think her question was, doesn't the building have a budget? I mean, like the principal gets a budget.
He does. They do. They all get a
Yeah.
annual budget, but they don't buy their teacher appreciation stuff out of their budget. They buy it out of a separate activity account.
I think that was all.
Any other questions?
Okay. So we would need a motion to reimburse the interest account in the amount of $2.25 and the payment of bills in the amount of $964,112.82.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Brad. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Robin. Roll call.
Angie,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes, Steve.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. And moving on to the consent agenda. In your packet, we had minutes from the April 22nd special board meeting, April 27th, a regular board meeting, May 4th, the technology committee meeting, and May 5th, the special board meeting. And we didn't have anything for the cafeteria report, no student teachers. Fundraisers, we did have one. It was for a dress sale event, would be hosted by the EHS basketball cheer team to raise funds for choreography on August 7th and 8th. No field trips, and the approval to post for public review, policy updates and changes that were included in your packet. Is there any questions? We also are going to move the approval of technology director to after closed session. No questions? Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Robin. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Jill. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Motion carries. We have correspondence from a few, these ones here, and then we also received some on our Board of Education email. I don't know if all of you had seen them, so we'll start off with those if that's okay. I would like to thank all the members of the board for this gift certificate to Save a Lot. I really do appreciate your generosity and thoughts for the members of this district. I also appreciate all your time and dedication that you're giving to serve this community. Working in the public is not a small, simple task, and in many times feels like there is no appreciation for your efforts. Know that the staff of this district does notice and appreciate each of you. I would also like to thank you for the opportunity to work under Mr. Schwarman. I know that with his guidance and directions, we will be a unified team driving forward through the upcoming challenges. I hope that you and your families all fare well during the new school year. Thank you again for all you do, Linda Baker. The other one was from Carrie Kerschel, a paraprofessional. Says, hello to all. I would like to take this opportunity to thank you for the gift card. Wow, that was a very generous, unexpected piece of mail. Kind of made my heart stutter, wondering what I was getting from the district at this time. I appreciate your thoughtfulness and for all the work that you do for the district. And then we had thank you for the gift card, much appreciated, from Vicki Stuckemeyer here at the board office. Board members and staff, thank you for the beautiful plant in memory of my two sister-in-laws. My husband's family was hit especially hard, losing two sisters within a week of each other. Kathy, which is Catherine Bliss, who was a former teacher, was proud to have taught at EHS for so many years. Thank you for acknowledging her memory, Deb Spence. Mr. Doan, Board of Education, thank you so much for your support in the Adopt a Senior project. We were able to purchase a $10 gift card to Homewood Grill for each senior. Due to a discount from Homewood Grill, several staff members also won a $5 gift card. That was from Jackie Tabbert. Unit 40 board and staff, thank you so much for the engraved stone to put in my garden. I appreciate your kindness during this difficult time. Thank you. That's from Mary Walters. She's a teacher at Southside after her dad's passing. Mr. Doan, please pass on my gratitude to the Board of Education for the gift card to Save a Lot. It will come in handy. Thank you, Angie Moeller. She is a teacher at ELC. Okay. We didn't have anything else, right? Okay. We will go ahead and move on to new business with the EJHS Old Football Field lights.
Whenever we started the site work project, one of the big things for us was making sure we kept enough of the green space that the band would still be able to practice and do their nighttime practices that they always do. When we started that project, we went out and tested the lights on the field to make sure that they worked ahead of time in case the construction company hit something and they stopped working. We wanted to know if they worked ahead of time and if they still worked afterward. What we found was 17 of the lights did not work. In talking to San Schaefer Electric, the price to replace those, to fix the metal halide lights that were there, was $6,250. In talking with them, they said, you really need to look at the Ameren rebate just to upgrade these to LED, because I think given your annual consumption, you'll qualify. So we went ahead and did that, went through the process and the paperwork, and what we found was the total cost of replacing them with LED is $31,565. However, Ameren is going to give us a rebate of $24,479, dropping our price to $7,086. So for a difference of $836, we can go from the metal halide lights that are out there to brand new LED lights and have a totally different field. The annual savings they're anticipating off of this change is over $9,000. So we're talking about this will pay itself back in the first month that band is practicing out there. Now, that's given the fact that band gets to practice and we get to come back to school. But so we would recommend that we move forward with San Schaefer Electric completing a full replacement of the lights on the old football field, which is now the band practice field behind the junior high, for a total price of $7,086.
Any questions?
I just have a question. It doesn't have anything to do with that, but what kind of lights do we have at the high school?
They're very similar. And I've been approached several times by different groups to replace those as well. And actually, we're in the process of working with Ameren right now.
I was gonna say, if it falls under that same program, it
absolutely.
would seem like it made sense to.
Well, Ameren right now is offering to replace our tennis court lights for free. So I'm in the process. In the process of completing that paperwork, and then we're going to talk more about our football field out there. But that'll be a much higher cost overall because they'll have to take the lights completely off the upper part of the poles, put all new poles in, and new transformers on each pole. So it'll be it's a little more in-depth process, but you're talking about similar rebates. So
Right. I mean, it seems like while the rebates are there, would be a
Right.
good time at least to investigate it all.
Yeah.
we are taking advantage of every Ameren rebate. We actually have our own person through Ameren who I talk to all the time. And that's each of the HVAC units we replace. Right now, we're getting about $2,000 per unit. There's $5,000 for the unit. We get $2,000 back. So replacing all those. So it's really helping our district. So
Okay.
That sounds good.
No other questions? We would need a motion to approve the JHS Field Light Project.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Brad. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Steve. Roll call.
Robin,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes, Kathleen, Steve,
Yes.
Angie.
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Moving on to our project updates. Mr. Fox.
yes, so lots of things happening in the district right now, especially at the junior high. If you happen to go by and look behind the building, you'll see hundreds and hundreds of new windows sitting there, on pallets. They've started putting them in. The basement has all new windows in it at the moment. They've started on the back of the gymnasium, where the coach's office and officials room. They did it today, and they're working their way around to the locker room areas and start on those. June 8th, they'll start on the front of the building. They'll start knocking out the office windows, then they'll jump up to the second floor and get those. So you'll see the building take a totally different look in the next few weeks. When you look at the building, you see windows in the bottom of the window casing, and then those red panels on top. That will all be windows. And so it'll totally change the look of the building when that goes in. Abatement, the second abatement session is coming to a close this week. They'll close up the north end of the second floor and start on the south end of the second floor. So if you know where the art room is in the middle, they did north of it. It is done as of today. They'll be working on the south end starting on Thursday. So abatement's a big one because as they move, the project moves. And so
Does the 60 whatever part,
yes.
does it have abatement or just in the rest of the old?
it will have
original
abatement as
section?
well.
Okay, I just didn't know.
All the floors in the classrooms in the new part are asbestos tile.
Oh,
So they're all 9-inch square tile, which all those are asbestos tile. So what we do with that right now is we just make sure we coat it real well with wax, and we don't have any problems. But all that will come out next summer. So the bathroom floor, the bathrooms in the basement, the new bathrooms in the basement, that floor was 3.5 feet down. It has now been poured. The concrete was poured yesterday, and it is now level with the basement floor. So that's exciting to see that coming together. There's cutting out steam pipes all over the building. The old steam boilers are coming out, and you're seeing new units go in. So tours, if you decide you'd like to tour the building several times throughout the summer, reach out. I'll meet you over there, and we'll walk the building. Get a hard hat. Be ready because it's hot, and you're gonna be wearing a hard hat around. So, but I'll be glad to take you on tours anytime you want. And you can watch it as it progresses. Lots of new doors going in. It's very busy. You're talking probably 35, 40 construction workers in there every day, and they're getting after it.
So are they a little ahead of schedule because they got to start a little earlier than anticipated, or how does the schedule look?
What we did is we told them that they agreed to 12 weeks. Didn't matter when they started. We finished it in 12 weeks.
Okay.
We did that because we know there'll be runovers, and we want to hold them to a 12-week schedule. They've asked over and over and over, can we extend that 16 weeks? No. You agreed to 12 weeks this summer, you get 12 weeks to get the work done. And then if they go over, they don't get paid extra for that. So that's part of it. So we want to try to be done early. That will allow us to get back in, get all the new network drops set up, all technology back in place, classrooms put back together. Last year, we were still putting things together with kids in the rooms. We don't want to do that again. So
When did our 12-week window start?
really, we started that the last week of April, first week of May. So yeah, we're looking at the middle of July as the date that they've been given. So what other things do I have on there?
The bucket truck.
Before we get to the EHS track, they came out and did the saw cut on the inside. They left the edge there, so it won't be a trip hazard or anything. And then they plan to be here mid-June to go ahead and resurface it. And then the crew will come through sometime after that to do the striping. So one crew comes in, does the structural spray. And then there's basically a crew of men that are really, really good at the striping that start in California. And they work their way across the country all the way to the East Coast and then all the way back during the summer. And they just hit schools constantly through there. So we'll just wait our turn when they come by and they'll stripe it for us. So the next thing on there, the bucket truck. So we talked about last month finding the used bucket truck to replace T4, which is the green truck we have. And so we worked with Northside, went through a lot of different vehicles, and we found this 2008 Dodge 5500. It is a diesel truck. It belonged to a supervisor, so he would work from the office most of the week, and then he would go out to the job site occasionally. So it only has a little over 30,000 miles on it. It has a 41-foot working height, which is plenty for what we need. That'll get us to the top of all of our buildings and allow us to move things around and do what we need to do. One owner, it was government used, no accidents. And with fees, title, and licensing all included, we're looking at $43,800. And we feel like I had all the maintenance guys look at it, our mechanic, as far as all the details. We feel like this truck will do everything that we would need it to do. So
This one, just a clarification, is because we talked about this before. This would, because our plan was to replace one for next year.
yes,
This would replace that.
yeah,
correct?
our plan was to replace T4 with just a brand new truck on next year's budget. Given where we're at this year's budget, we feel like we can do it this year, and then we will not replace T4 with a brand new truck. We do not need that truck with a snowplow because we put a 6-foot plow on the UTV we bought a year and a half ago to do all the sidewalks. It does a much better job, doesn't tear up the grass on the edges. So we would give up the snowplow option on this truck to get a bucket truck so we don't have to rent outdoor lifts and bucket trucks to do our work. So our goal is to save money down the road with not having to rent these other devices. So
What about the blind project?
the blind project, other things we talked about, the high school blind project, the blinds have been picked out, and everything has been ordered. They should be installed the middle of June. So right at Home Furnitures is the one doing that, and Right at Home Interiors, I'm not, whichever one it is. But they have been out, they've measured, everything's been ordered, colors have been picked to match everything that's in there. So yeah, we're moving along on that as well. So we also talked about in the Transportation Committee meeting, the maintenance grant. With not moving forward on the South Side project this year, we had a $50,000 state of Illinois maintenance grant, which was going to pay part of that. Mr. Doan and I have been working on trying not to lose that grant. So we're working on talking to the state about being able to use that either for different projects or extending that project over a 2-year time span so we don't lose that $50,000. What we don't want to do is not do the project this year and then we lose that $50,000 from the state and it costs us more. So we're working on different options with that, and we'll probably come back and let you know where we're at on that. But that was something we talked about as well. So,
Is there any questions regarding? We do have a motion to approve the purchase of a used bucket lift truck from Northside Ford in the amount of $43,800.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Robin. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Brad. Roll call.
Brad,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes. Steve,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Rob.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Moving on to the janitorial and custodial equipment purchase.
okay. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the district is going to be receiving some funds to be used towards cleaning and technology, two of the big issues through this whole thing schools are experiencing. And so in talking to our custodial staff, looking at our equipment, we have an inventory of our equipment, what's good, what's not, what needs to be replaced now, so on. We went through and we identified different items that we would need, and we feel like we could use the COVID-19 CARES money from the government to purchase these items. We have 2 scrubbers on there. One of those is what I have demo next to it. It has 10 hours of use on it that it was used in demonstrations. I always work with Hilliard to try to get them to bring me a machine on site, demo it, and then I try to buy it at a reduced price. And I'm usually pretty fortunate with that. So the scrubber that says demo there, you can see brand new. The one underneath it is about $8,400 almost. And we're going to get the demoed model with 10 hours for $6,200. So we would like to buy the top one for Southside. Their scrubber has all but died. We've been using, if you remember, we bought 2 new scrubbers for the junior high earlier this year, early this school year. And we took the one that the junior high had, which was already in bad shape, and we took it to Southside and started cannibalizing it to keep Southside's machine running. So Southside is in need of one. And then Central School is also in need of one. They have 2. One is dead. They've been trying to do both the first floor and the second floor with one scrubber, which is double the amount of time one person has to do. So we'd like to pick up the second scrubber for them. The backpack sprays you see there, those are similar to the Clorox 360 machines we've been using. We have 2 360 machines that we've been rotating from building to building, where we spray the disinfectant throughout the room. And it's electrified. So if I were to put a piece of tape on the bottom of the table, spray it in the room, then flip the table over and pull the tape, you would see everything else on the bottom of the table got covered, even though I didn't spray the bottom. I sprayed the top. It pulls that mist to every piece of everything in the room and then sits there and kills what's on it. So they actually electrifies the molecules so they stick to anything in the room. It's very neat technology. Our Clorox 360 machines we can only run Clorox disinfectant through. Otherwise, we void our warranty. These Victory backpack sprayers are basically the same device, but we can run any chemical we choose through them. So if a better chemical comes out than the Clorox chemical, we can run it through here and not worry about a warranty. We want the backpack sprayers because our custodians can throw a backpack sprayer on, walk the hallway, spray lockers in the hallway, walk in a classroom, do it. They can be much more efficient with their time doing this. And then I've talked to the head custodians about, we're not doing every inch of the building every night. We're rotating through different areas. If there's an area we have a concern about, we can do it every night. But you'll notice I put in our larger schools 2 backpack sprayers, in our smaller schools 1. Now, I did not put one at ELC. They have a Clorox 360 machine, and we have a Clorox 360 machine at preschool, which is at Central, but it's in its own area. And so we'd like to leave it there and buy these. We also are wanting to put 2 of these sprayers at the bus garage so that our mechanics, after the day's over, can walk onto each bus, spray down the seats, walk off. We'll probably do that daily because there's lots of things that get wiped on seats and so on. So that's something we want to do. And then we went with a smaller unit, which is just a handheld sprayer. It has a really small tank on it for this office so that we can do it once a week or once every few days in here. We don't need the full backpack. We don't need that kind of expense for this office. So you can see those devices. The shop vac is something that EHS, theirs broke this summer. This spring, it's not summer yet. And so we would look at those. The Trident restroom cleaning machines, we now have big yellow machines called Kyvacs. They're about $4,500 a piece. This Trident machine does the very similar performance, but it's smaller and it's a whole lot cheaper. Basically, it's new technology. They just came out with this machine over winter break. And so they're going to be here to demo it on Wednesday. I would like for the board to consider approving us the purchase of it, provided we like it. If we like it, we would go ahead and purchase it. If it's something we don't like, I'll come back to you next month with something different. But all of our head custodians are pretty confident from what they've seen of this machine that they would like to have it. My goal is to get them in here to demo it. Then maybe I can get one of them cheaper. So you kind of see where I'm going there. High school hand blowers right now, we are blowing out the gymnasiums with a gas and oil mixed backpack blower. If you've ever been anywhere around when that happens, the entire building fills up with that smell of gas and oil. We've had great luck with this blower at the junior high. This is what we went to earlier this year. We're able to clean out the whole gym, minimum noise, no smell. And so we'd like to do that. And we'd like to buy them an extra set of batteries to have with those. Also at the junior high, the girls, or it used to be girls, the small gym on the other end, it is carpet. And we have an old vacuum. It's actually an old sweeper. It doesn't have a vacuum suction to it. It just sweeps. And so it's very hard to get that gym clean. So what we'd like to do is buy a new 26-inch vacuum that we can run through that gym. And I think it has a 75-foot cord on it. So we can get that gym done a lot quicker. And it's actually kind of a self-propelled. Once you turn it on, it takes off. You just got to walk behind it and keep the handle held. So we'd like to look at that for the junior high. The junior high also has 4 vacuums that are shot. What we've done over the last 2 years is I've tried to replace vacuums by building. This year we replaced all the vacuums at Central, and I did not have the junior high on until next year. But with this CARES money, I think this is the time to get them done. They're working on parts. Same thing with Southside. He needs 2 new vacuums. The mini scrub, that is at the high school, when they do the kitchen, we have the big scrubbers we ride on, but when you do the kitchen in there, we have the tray counters that stick out. We have different things in the kitchen that you have to go under, tight spaces you have to get in. So this has a 13-inch head on it. It puts water down, scrubs it, and then vacuums the water up in the back. Has a small tank on it. And so this would allow us to do that. We have what's called a Sabre scrub in there right now. And it's the same age as the building. It's 22 years old. And we're having a hard time finding parts and getting it serviced. So we'd like to look at replacing that. And then the last 2 items are really the same item. It's a multi-flow wax applicator. We changed out our method of waxing floors a few years back. Instead of using a backpack and a real small brush to lay it down, or the big mops, we went to these wax applicators, which have a 28-inch head on them. And you walk backwards and it applies the wax and lays it on real smooth. The wax dries in 20 minutes. The high school uses that, and ELC still uses that. Southside does a little bit, and but not a lot. And so we want to buy 2 more of those. The high school has one really good one that's not so good. So we'll get rid of the one that's not so good, and we'll give ELC a new one. So all of that, it's a lot of information. Sorry, I talked a lot. But all that for $52,326.31. We'd be buying that from 3 different companies: Hilliard, SIPC, which is the Schools of Illinois Purchasing Cooperative, and then also from Rural King for the devices we can get just there. So
The purchasing co-op does not have the other options that we're buying from Hilliard?
I priced them all out.
Okay.
And
That's just
yeah,
better price.
right. And, Hilliard even has their own version of the Victory backpack sprayer, but it was a little bit more expensive. So I'm just trying to make sure we got the best price for each of the items.
So will the backpack sprayers do the 360 type of thing, getting above, below?
Yes, it's the exact same machine. Well, I shouldn't say exact same. It's very similar machine, electrifies the molecules so that it sticks on everything.
Mhm.
It's just you can use whatever product you want through it. Clorox wants you to use their product, so if you use anything else, you get rid of the warranty.
Mhm.
That's how they
Okay.
guarantee. So I just want to be able to use whatever the best product is, regardless of the label on it. So
We anticipate that all of this would probably fall under the CARES money.
yes, it will.
Do we have to use a certain percentage for custodial and a certain percentage for technology?
No.
Okay.
And I anticipate we'll need to buy chemical product, things like that,
Mhm.
which we'll have to use some of that as well. But there's not a percentage that's been laid down to us.
Okay.
So
What about availability and lead time for getting things like this? I'm sure everybody's looking for them now. So.
they have. I've been in contact with everybody on here. Now the Victory backpack sprayers are going like hotcakes, so we're gonna have to get that in right away. But I think pretty much everything else. Now we're buying several of these restroom cleaning machines, so we may be able to get 2 or 3 now, and then in a couple of weeks get the rest. But we'll make that work. So
All of it's mainly for the fall.
yeah,
I mean, that's the goal.
yeah.
I noticed in that ISBE guidance that just came out, they talked about not only janitorial supplies, but also, things like quantities of hand sanitizer and those kinds of things, saying get ahead of the game now because those things will become very scarcer even if they're not already scarce. So
When we dismissed school, We placed an order, a very large, several pallets of hand sanitizer at that time, and it has now come in. After some shipping around here and there, it got pulled away from us and sent to hospital several times. And then it finally made it here. So we do have a quantity of that on hand, and we will be ordering, or what we normally do to start a year. So we'll make sure we have plenty.
Did we order toilet paper?
Actually, the day we dismissed, we went to Lorenz Wholesale in Mattoon and bought 50 cases of it the day we dismissed as well. So we have a lot of that on hand as well. So we're trying to stay prepared.
Okay. Do we have any other questions for Mr. Fox in regards to those items? Okay. Hearing none, we need a motion to approve the purchase of janitorial equipment and supplies as presented. I will,
Make it.
okay. Jane, I will second. We can give a roll call.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes, Kathleen, Steve,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Robin, yes, Brad.
Yes.
Moving on to the easy representative.
Basically, school district is part of EASY, special ed co-op, and we have to have a district representative. There are usually 2 meetings, one in August and one in February. And then they usually, if there's other meetings, they're held at 7:00 up by Sarah Bush Lincoln. Jane's been the rep for the district for a couple of years. We always have a backup just in case. Our co-op is 11 counties. So you have board or school districts throughout those 11 counties, and then each district has a representative. So it's run by the representatives, and they oversee and vote twice a year. So our district needs to have one. I didn't know, just this is for next year, but I wanted to get it on there. If anyone's interested, I don't know, Jane, if you're still interested or not, but
Yeah, I'll do it. It's no big deal.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
well, we would need probably. I think
Steve just
Steve was a
volunteered.
backup
Yeah,
last
that's
year.
what I just heard. Thanks, Steve.
I'm thinking.
It was myself.
Not
Was
me.
it you? Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, the previous board.
Oh, okay, Bruce.
But Steve, you're more than welcome to be the alternate.
Hey, I'll do it.
All right.
I'll do it.
So we would need a motion and second to approve Jane as the Unit 40 Easy representative and Steve as the alternate.
I'll make it.
I'll second it.
Robin and Brad, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Motion carries. Okay, the preparation for the fiscal year 21 budget calendar.
Just to move forward, put a budget calendar in front of the board. One of the things you may not remember, or you do, we did not bring an amended budget to the board this year. That would have been presented, a tentative one would have been presented tonight for movement in June. We feel comfortable after going back through that there's no need for that. Couple highlights just to remember. We were going to transfer working cash funds to O&M for summer work at the junior high plus some technology. However, that money, we didn't feel like we didn't want to move it and then not spend it in that fiscal year. Right. So if we would have moved it and it wouldn't be spent by June 30th, then it's not hard to account for it. It just looks different. So we want to push that. We'll push that off to July to do that transfer for next year. So with that, the other costs, we feel we're good and where we're at finishing the year. So we didn't feel there was a need to bring an amended budget to the board to amend anything. So that's why we don't have that. But this is just an annual thing that we've started working on the budget for next year. August, we'd have a tentative budget, have a resolution, and in September, we have a public budget hearing, just so it's out there so everybody knows.
Any questions? Okay, just need a motion to adopt the fiscal year 21 budget calendar.
I'll make the motion.
Motion by Steve. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Jill. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Motion carries. We're moving on to the technology replacement purchases for 2020, 2021.
The technology committee had a meeting, the minutes were in there and kind of shared some information in a report and then in the board. It was just last week, right?
Yeah.
It's been a long week. Anyway, the idea of we were already in a rotation plan. We were planning on for both B and C at the high school. And so the committee had some discussion about that. I'll turn it over to Jason to talk about the actual replacement, and then any Brad or Robin have any questions, concerns, comments, whatever, we'll move forward. But the idea is to replace some technology at the high school.
Yeah, so the technology department, we always try to keep a 5-year plan, look out as to what devices are on the horizon to be replaced for this summer. What was on the horizon to be talked about were the B-Wing laptops and the C-Wing laptops, for a total of 120 laptops. We had purchased them, I believe, almost 5 years ago. And so that's kind of getting towards the end of their useful life. In that, we normally would sit down with the teachers and have a long conversation about, is this what you need? Is this, and have that conversation. But given what the situation we're in, Julie Flack reached out to the teachers, asked them, is what you have, is it working or not? And they came back with a lot of different information, a lot of it being they would like to see one-to-one in their classrooms. That being said, the committee talked a lot about, currently they have 6 carts in the B wing with 15 computers in each. Is that functional? Is that not functional? What would work better? So the decision was made by the committee to go, instead of 6 carts of 15, to buy 4 carts of 30 for B wing. And then in C wing, instead of 2 carts of 15, to go with 2 carts of 30. For a total of 180 devices. You see 185 on the list. That's those 5 extras. So we make sure that the carts stay full of working devices, and we don't have 2 or 3 in a cart for some reason go down. That cart's without, we can put these devices in. The carts we currently have are 15 unit carts, not real easy to be modified. So we'd be looking at 6 carts for those 30 as well. So we could get them in there, organized and charged. So the device cost seems to be going up. I'm guessing that's because of demand is going up right now. And so each of those devices right now is coming in at $580.25 a piece. 185 devices, it comes at $107,346.25. The carts are coming in at $934.62 each. 6 carts would be $5,607.72 for a total cost of $112,953.97. And I'll let you guys talk a little more about it.
Okay, one of our main changes was to go from 6 carts to 4 on the B wing, as Mr. Fox said, but with 30 in a cart. 6 carts was 1 in every English classroom. So now they would be sharing 4 carts. They always wanted to have 1 for every student in the room. They always did. That didn't happen. We didn't have that situation. So I think that these 4 with 30 in each would solve that dilemma. Plus, a lot of our English classes too, many of our English classes are primarily literature classes. And so maybe the need for the laptop isn't as great as in a composition class or whatever. So it's not like every room every day is going to need a cart. All right. So we felt that was still something workable for them. The only thing, and we didn't really talk about that I would, and this would just be a matter of having Julie reach out again and confirming that science and social studies would like to have 2 carts of 30, because it wouldn't change the number of computers. But one thing I wondered, because I know in social studies, at least, it seems like they do a lot of group work. And so maybe they prefer to have a 30 and then 2 15s on that corridor.
Mhm.
Just because it would, be a little more, you have one extra card. And if they work in groups on a lot of projects, then they'd have 3 cards to work with instead of just 2. That was just a thought. But that would be something, it wouldn't change the number of computers. The other thing that we did make sure of was that these laptops that we are replacing, the older laptops that we're replacing, would still be something that we probably could use if we got into a situation where we needed to distribute devices in another remote learning situation. So we could, have 120 of those devices kind of waiting if we needed to use those, and that kind of made it seem even a little bit smarter move right now. And the CARES money also is anticipated, I believe, right, to cover
Yes.
a good part of this.
Well, this would actually come out of what we already had
Okay, 'cause
budgeted for
we
this
had
year.
it budgeted.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
So any future, again, this is up to the committee, and the board, but any future discussion in regards to additional purchases, those other funds are there and can be earmarked wherever the board wants to. This was on our regular
Okay.
updating, and we can do it either way, but it still just gives the district flexibility moving forward.
So we could use the CARES money for other technology purchases, maybe more
Yeah.
iPads or something for other buildings if we got that money.
Interact board,
Okay, right,
all sorts of, just trying to
right.
utilize the funds we have that, we had budgeted, as we get used to budgeting a certain amount every year, that we do that as we upgrade, but then this other funds is a one-time type of issue. But we'll have 2 years for that money too. So I want to say 2021. So it's not something we have to spend right now, but there's that possibility.
We had quite a bit of discussion at our meeting, so if some of you have some
Yeah,
questions that
be
we
happy
could
to answer
probably,
them.
yeah.
I was just curious if there is a vision for going to one-to-one. Do we see that on the horizon at all?
Well, one of the things that we talked about was the fact that one-to-one learning and remote learning are really two different things right now.
Right.
And the one-to-one learning it's a huge endeavor, and I think it's certainly something that we'll look into, but we need somebody. That's one of the reasons why we felt compelled to have a technology director who would
Right.
kind of lead that type of investigation. And,
I think
definitely something
one
to look at, but we certainly haven't moved on it.
Yeah, I think some of the discussion figured or circled around short-term, long-term. That's what I always try to look at. It's easier for me. Short-term is remote learning. What do we need to do? What can we do now to get to that? Long-term, because, I agree with Robin in regards to the one-on-one initiative. If we don't change or adjust on our professional development, my opinion and what I've seen and seen research of districts, it's one thing to give every student a laptop, but if we don't change how we instruct and utilize, and our staff is not understanding, because that's not how they were taught, or that's what the long-term process is. And it's not a point where you do this and then all of a sudden you do one-to-one. It's as you go, but that's a philosophical discussion from the board's perspective, in my opinion. If that's the direction we want to go, then there's a lot of other items that need to go with that. We could have bought devices at any time, but it's a matter of and sometimes it's what are they going to be used for and those types of things. So those, just want to make sure everybody has those discussions. I think that's the synopsis of what we talked about at the committee.
Well, and I think maybe once we have our technology director and we go back again to our goal setting, is that a vision of our district to get to one-to-one? On a personal level, I would say, in my opinion, yes, but I don't know how the rest of the board or the district as a whole feels about that.
No, I'm in 100% in support of it.
185 devices is one group of kids, one grade level of kids.
And I think Mr. Dunn hit on one of the key features. If you read much of the literature on one-to-one initiatives and school districts that have found them to be really successful, and some districts really haven't seen any advantage to that. And a lot of it has to do with how they implemented the program, meaning they, just like you said, maybe they just put the devices out there, but they really didn't go through the process of training teachers and really rethinking how instruction was going to be delivered, and not just teachers, but students and parents, and you have, it's a huge
Right.
process, and it takes more than just buying devices.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
but it's a definitely a consideration, but it's something that we really have to look at hard.
And I think that what we're purchasing now is Jason said it's an HP convertible, similar to like what I have here. So it can fit well within a one-to-one technology scope if that's what we decided to get to a year or two down the road. So I think it's an investment still in the future. So.
The thing I'm concerned about is that we're buying laptops for the B wing and the C wing. If we're not in school, they're not going to help us at this time. Like if we are going to be having to learn from home and start this process that we're going through now in the fall, these laptops that we're buying for this aren't going to help us because they're going to be sitting in a classroom.
But the ones that we're replacing could be distributed out
Right.
to others, so it could help us in that regard. So we have machines that we feel better positioned that we could distribute to people.
Because we have, I mean, it's been brought up before about getting, purchasing laptops and having them from, 6th grade on. And it's been discussed and we've never went through with that. So when I look at buying 185 devices with funds that we've already had, I feel like, okay, that money that we've already set aside, like you just said, could do a whole grade level. And then with the CARES money that we could get, we can in turn obviously get more to make sure in the fall, if we do have to do remote learning, that we do have kids that are prepared for that, because these new ones are just going to sit in our wings and do nothing.
I don't think that we can plan though for not having school. I mean, I think that we do have to plan that as far as remote learning, but I think we also have to plan to have school. I mean, so I don't think we can kind of say, well, we don't want these in our classrooms, because we certainly hope we're there. And we already know that we're probably looking at a 6-week timeline to get anything. So these laptops are of an age that they need replaced. And they give us an opportunity to have 120 devices that we could distribute easily, and not, if you start distributing devices, the chances are that there's going to be some issues with some of them. They're not going to come back and necessarily be all usable. And with these devices, we probably would not put them back into use in the classroom again. So that would be, something that would not necessarily be a problem. So
I guess if every student eventually has a laptop, then we wouldn't need those 185 sitting in the 2 wings, correct?
But with the type of device we're getting, we can redeploy that into a one-to-one type
he's
of
saying
scenario.
they could be
So,
moved.
yeah, they could be used and assigned to a class. That's what we wanted to do down the road. So
Right. So that's what I'm saying. If we're going to purchase laptops for students, then those 185 wouldn't necessarily be needed in the B and C wing, because eventually these kids would all have one. Do you see what I'm
Okay,
saying?
the one-to-one initiative is not going to buy a device for every student 7 to 12 at one time.
Correct. But we could get a really good start.
Right. Well, and I see what you're saying. I think what, from my perspective, and maybe the committees, but my perspective is were these part of they weren't part of the.
These were each and then
Right.
replaced.
Right.
So they
Okay.
originally were put out there.
So we bought a bunch at one time
Yes.
and then have to replace a bunch at one. We did this with buses.
So
That's
this
why.
is- This is a second replacement.
We had 11 go off the deduction schedule in 1 year. So
Correct.
that's why you don't buy everything at once. Anyway, I think what this does, it allows the district the flexibility of still moving forward. If the district buys 185, not only do you have the 120 that are already there, let's say 100 of them are working and can be used. That's 100 more than we had. If we decide, the district decides in the next year or 2 years or whatever, what that process is of one-to-one, then you could start with these 185 or buy another 185. Because the implementation of this is what concerns me in regards to just putting together 185 and handing them out. Because we have a school district in our conference that was going to do one-to-one next year, and they're pushing forward to this year. And they're going to have 3,300 devices. Now, I'm just telling you, that's not what I'd want to be looking at starting in the fall with our staff, which we may still be in remote learning, who knows? Anyway, I think this allows more flexibility moving forward, whether it's going to the one-to-one and quicker or faster than a couple of years down the road. It could be next year, whatever the case may be. We're already got a good step and you still have the 120. I'm assuming, and hearing what you're saying, was the possibility of buying more. Yeah, that's what I heard, or that's what I thought I heard. And that certainly is a possibility. And I guess the committee could address that or move forward on that. But I think that's why we talked about replacing at the high school. This is on the regular rotation. So
Angie, are you talking about purchasing more now because the CARES funds are available, or?
Yes.
Because I mean, I think the committee and everybody has been open to the
laptops
one-to-one.
in the hands of our students.
Okay.
All of them.
The one thing that I will say about this spring and this remote learning is that our teachers have become more technologically
By necessity,
driven
right?
than they ever have. And, say you were going to consider a rollout of a one-to-one. The high school now, pretty much every teacher has a Google Classroom that they are managing and running. And so that would help with devices being used appropriately. Where if we had never experienced what we're experiencing now, you would have a lot of teachers probably fight you on changing what they normally do on a daily basis. But now they've experienced life only through technology. And the fact that kids need a device in their hand in order to do a lot of these things that they're currently doing. So, sometimes change, that what we're going through now forces a change that we wouldn't be comfortable with trying on our own. And so now might be a time to really get the teachers thinking about what if every kid had a one-to-one device, because they've experienced why there's a need for it. So just something to think about, that this spring is a very good launching pad into this idea, if that's something you think you want to do.
I think one of the tech integrationists made the comment that given the scenario that you've just gone through, that we have experienced, these teachers have experienced, that there's going to be a much greater demand in the buildings when we go back to school for more devices than are presently there. Because they're going to want to use them more. So, some of them have used them a lot, but some of them haven't. And so I think that
There's going to be a new normal in the
Yes.
classroom.
Yes.
So, okay, let me ask you this. How many kids do we have in the high school right now?
750.
Yeah.
750. And we are purchasing 185. We have roughly 100 that actually could work if we needed them to.
120.
120.
120.
That's just what I'm thinking. Like, eventually, like we had talked about before, starting off with the freshmen that came in, getting all the laptops, and then having those laptops to go all the way through high school with.
And I didn't understand that you were thinking more. I thought you were
Yeah.
just thinking not these.
I
No.
agree.
That's what I heard.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
Yes,
So
I didn't explain that very well.
Right.
But that's, I'm like,
I'm
wait
with
a
you
minute.
now.
Right.
Right.
So that
I'm
was
with
my thinking, was there's 185, we could almost do an entire class at the high school.
Or
Power
if
grade
it's a
level.
5-year rotation, each 8th grader gets a new computer and that goes through.
Well, and
And
again,
then-
this is a big discussion. It takes a
Yes.
lot of consideration and a lot of planning. And I think that that's definitely something that we need to look into, but we need somebody to lead that charge.
Yes.
And I think that was one of our reasons for wanting a technology director, because it's a huge move. So, but certainly something we need to look at. The other thing I'll mention is the ones we're talking about purchasing, the good news is, first of all, every student takes English, so they all in the building are gonna be able to use those as well as the science and social studies. And so at least they have an opportunity to use them in their core classes by buying these new laptops.
And it could be a natural progression, as what Mr. Fox mentioned, obviously the use and being more comfortable with the use. I would anticipate that we'll probably have some more requests in the fall, and, which could lead towards that additional purchasing if we needed and wanted to do that from the board's perspective.
So if we had additional people who needed laptops, are we gonna be able to let them use one of these out of this 185 that we're purchasing?
Well, we have the
For
100.
remote learning?
You got the
Yes,
120.
I mean, we have
first.
120, but say we need more than that, are we gonna be able to use some of those to help these students?
Well, what we did this year is if you remember, we bought new laptops out at Central earlier this year for testing and things like that. So when we went into this remote learning, we pulled those laptops, re-imaged them so that they could hook into any Wi-Fi anywhere, but anything they did would have to go through our sniffer. So, and then we made them sign a contract that they understood that the device had to come back in the same working order, that they had to follow the AUP, and anything they did outside of our acceptable use policy could have discipline. And we've issued several laptops out of that batch at Central during this time. So, Mr. Doan met with the technology guys and we put this plan together and we got it implemented. So there are kids in our community that have had our laptops in their hand throughout the last probably 3 weeks. So
How many? I would have liked to have had a.
well, we
Briefing on that.
imaged 15 computers to start with,
Mhm.
and they've been issuing them out of the high school. I know there were 6 the first day. After that, I've not really asked Mr. Roberts to share with me how many have gone out, but I know he shares with Kirk Hammer, one of our tech guys, so that we can make sure everything's recorded right and watching those. So
I think that's good information for us to know.
We did talk also about at registration this year, having something on the registration form that they're completing that will give us some information about what they have available at home, and whether they have internet connectivity or not, because we really didn't have that information. We put a survey out, but of course it was on the internet. So
Right.
that might have limited, the responses we got. So this way, hopefully we'll have better information to really know what kids have at home already and whether they have internet access at home too. So we talked a lot about that, and Mr. Fox or Mr. Doan could maybe talk a little bit more about some of the things that they've been investigating as far as working with Wabash about connectivity and stuff.
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing, and I think I've said before, is not some of its devices, but it's more connectivity is more of an issue than anything. And I think, we've got some rural areas. I mean, we have some staff don't have it. I mean, reliable, right? So that's something that we've reached out to, we when we started this, when this all came up, we were looking at Watson, Mason and Edgewood, trying to find a spot. And, but again, the IT guys talk to, you have Consolidated, you have Wabash, you have different groups. And so, two of those couldn't work for sure. We're not sure about Edgewood, but we are looking at, even fiber is going down in that area. So we have a meeting, we're going to set up a meeting to talk to them, their IT people. Some of it's at some of those towns or coming near. They've also written a grant, I think, for one of those towns. So it may be part of the CARES money, can be used for that. But again, we don't have a building. So where do you put it? What equipment? that type of thing. I think that can be worked out. And even then, just because fiber's in, it's still going to be Wi-Fi in some of that from the fiber part. So, and again, that's the 50,000 view, because I'm not versed in all that. But those are the things we're looking at, is trying to work on connectivity as much as devices. I really don't. I mean, if we have to, it's a matter of re-imaging and things. If we knew we were going to be out for a while, we could re-image some of our things. But the problem is, you re-image them, then we come back, and we're stuck because now they got to be re-imaged. We can't use them as we did in the classroom. So I'm personally more worried about connectivity than I am the device spec.
Some of the lower grades, the devices that they would be, the warranty would be iPads rather than the laptops.
Right.
Simply because of the size of the children, and that's what they use.
Right now, ELC uses primarily iPads. Southside, although they have the laptops that also rotate into a tablet, which is what we'd be purchasing. So it would do both at that level. So, and that's what we're handing out right now for those in need. We hand out the laptops that also convert to a tablet, so they can use them for either one of those modes. So.
Well, we'll get back to our. So we would need a motion to approve the technology replacement purchase.
Make that motion.
Motion by Robin,
I'll second that.
Brad. Roll call.
Yes, Kathleen, Steve,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Joe.
Yes.
We kind of touched on this just a minute ago.
Yeah.
Our remote learning plan discussion.
Well, I just want to, Angie had asked to put this on there, and one of the things that we've been discussing is, where do we go from here for the fall? I don't know if anybody really knows where we're going to be or what we're going to be. But some of the things that we're looking at, and Robin, you read this information it came out Friday, I believe, and I read it Friday night. But some of the things that we're looking at over the summer, which we had already started looking at, and in fact, there's so I'll just go with this. Some of the things we're going to consider the technology needs, not only devices, but connectivity. That's what we're talking about. And looking at what we can do to help bridge that gap. The issue is, in remote learning, is it going to be short term? Is it going to be long term? Is it going to be at all? Do you get started and then in October, is it going to happen? So there's that type of issue going on, but we need to try to be as prepared as possible. We are starting to address and evaluate professional development needs for our staff. In fact, this afternoon, late or right before I got here, I got a survey to look over. We'll send out to staff in regards to where they are, what they feel they need, those types of things, and then trying to plan that for the summer to try to we need to support our staff in this endeavor. We're going to have to evaluate curriculum continuity between grade levels. We stopped March 13th, I believe. And, so students, where they end isn't usually where they usually end, and where they're going to start isn't going to where they're going to usually start. So that's going to be some adjustment, some communication issues. But it's, that's going to be a change from what we do now. Also, our remote learning assessment protocol. When I talk about that, the discussion we had in April about whether we're going to grade or not going to grade, and those types of things. And if we are going to grade, then I think, as I mentioned then, and I would purport to the board, that we need to make sure that instruction is going on if that's what we're going to do, and it's not just a maintenance. That it's got to. I would purport that there would be instruction, and then based upon that instruction would be grading. So those are things to think about as we move forward. This summer I inquired, and we've asked and talked about what kind of summer school, if any, and some of the issues have been brought up of safety issues, and so that's going to severely limit what, if anything, we can do. But we still have, we always have credit recovery, and we always need to have support. So, CARES money can be used for that as well. So what does that look like? And what do we need in regards to credit recovery, if any? And then also, tutoring in the fall, once we get started back, is there going to be a need for that? And how do we offer that after school, and how, those types of issues, or is it an online support? So those are things that we're talking about and looking at. And then you talk about the whole other issue of the social emotional issue of just, not being around their peers, and not being around their teachers, and teachers not being around them. And there's some families, and I think everybody has struggled a little bit at some point. And so those are issues that are going to have to be addressed as we transition back. So those are kind of the ideas the things we've touched on, and we'll start planning moving forward. I would assume, and I guess this is a question, that we would work through the curriculum committee and possibly the tech committee on that. Not trying to double, but just some direction there, so we can have those regular updates and what we're planning on moving forward. Just kind of wanted some feedback on that in regards to curriculum committee or technology committee. I'd rather have one, not two, if possible. Otherwise but those topics are the items that we're looking at. Some guidance was given out Friday. There are plans out there, and I think, we look at those plans, but I think some of that has to be what fits the district, and what can we do as a district. And so what I've said all along, and I continue to say, we can't be everything for everyone, but whatever we do, we've got to do 100% of the best we can. And so we want to try to do as much as possible, but we want to try what we do decide to propose and support. We want to support the best we can. And so that's kind of the overall theme with those items that we would be looking at for the fall. And again, I'm assuming we're starting on time, and we're starting as regular. I don't know. So
I think that the technology issues that you mentioned, we've kind of already talked about in our committee as far as connectivity and the devices right now. I mean, there'll be more stuff coming up. I'm sure the technology committee will be talking about a lot of the other things you talked about, probably fall more into curriculum, I would guess.
I would agree with that.
And it doesn't matter to me because I'm on both.
I've just generally been interested and concerned and wondering, like, what is our engagement rate? How many kids are actually engaged? How many kids are completing their work? How many kids are taking paper packets? How many paper packets are coming back? I'm just curious. I'd really like to know, we're doing what we can on our end, our kids do, and how can we support our families and our parents, because we're going to have parents that will go back to work, and if we don't go back to school, that could be another issue.
Part of the issues, Ben,
I'm just wondering,
yeah,
what's
and
the
I don't
return rate, and what's the
when I
engagement
asked that after our last board meeting, the percentages were pretty high at the younger levels, and again at the high school and junior high level, until you get paper packets back is really hard, and then they have to sit 72 hours before they can be looked at. I know in talking to Kurt last week that for safety reasons, we were for safety reasons, is whenever they're turned in, that box sits for 72 hours and nobody touches it. So I know that they've had some, as the time gone, my intuition is as time has gone on, that engagement has dropped. Okay. And so, especially, you at the high school level, talking and calling and doing home visits. Our people are doing home visits and not getting any feedback on some people. And so that's why they're continuing to reach out and sending, like I said, making home visits. So we'll reach out again and try to get a number. It's going to be hard to quantify, especially at the junior high or high school level, because there's 7, let's say taking 6 classes. What if I'm engaged in 4? Am I engaged? Am I not engaged? Yeah.
Well, are we keeping records on who's engaged?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, when that information
And
gets
we
turned
have
in,
statistics.
No, I think
on
he's
that,
just
yeah.
trying to say if we're trying just to have how many students at the junior high are engaged, he's trying to say, well, for one student, maybe they've got 7 classes, so do they have to be engaged in all of them to be engaged, or if they're engaged in 4, do we consider them engaged?
Yeah.
I think that.
Yeah, I consider them, if they're engaged, but that's me. Yeah, each teacher, when information comes back, they're keeping track of that. So we've had what, 2 weeks or 2 weeks of turn in now of paper packets. I'm sure some of them are holding them. I'm sure, as we've always got this, the dog ate my homework or whatever the case. We're not going to get that back, but
At the junior high and high
We'll reach
school
out.
level, teachers are putting in a 1 or a 0, a 1 if they did the work, a 0 if they haven't got it back yet. So that pass incomplete.
Mhm.
So, I mean, we can see if we can run a report and see how much that we're getting. I don't know if that's
It
gonna be
might
possible,
be
but
more telling, or more informative a little bit if it were really by, I don't know whether to say teacher as much as by course. Or by teacher, I don't know, like, if you knew that a math teacher had,
yeah,
80%
85 or
engagement,
what.
or something like that might be a little more informative. I don't know.
We can look and see what kind of, if we
I
can
mean,
run a
I'm-
report. I don't know if we
Yeah,
can
I'm
get that
just
or not, but
I'm
we can
very
try.
curious, and the ones that aren't engaged, do they fully comprehend that if they're not engaged, they're incomplete?
Yeah.
And then how do we address that?
well, they'll have,
Well, I'm sorry, going by that email that we had
Mhm.
received the other day. There, and I know this because actually a parent was like, well, my child hasn't turned anything in because she's going to pass. And I'm like, but you're supposed to be staying engaged and turning things in. But then after I had seen the email, these kids are smart. They know. They passed 3rd quarter. They didn't turn anything in. You're getting a 1 for pass and a 0 for incomplete, and you're averaging them out. It's 0.5. They just got a credit for that. And I think that's more one of the reasons why I really wanted us to bring up this remote learning plan, because if we have students who haven't engaged this 4th quarter and we, for some reason, can't come back at the beginning of the next year, are they going to be the same way? Because then they're not learning anything.
well,
And setting expectations.
Right.
Right.
well, and that's why, when I mentioned that, and on our discussion the other day about we have to have more instruction moving forward.
Yes.
And, and that has to be a part of it. Now, you also have to weigh that against, what are some of the reasons for that, right? Because we always have the other side of that. Why aren't they engaged? And it could be multiple different reasons, things that we can't control, things that they can't control. But we'll need to support them in trying to make sure that they are successful. But yeah, that would be a difference of what we do now versus what we do in my opinion, from our discussion from last month,
Mhm.
and moving forward in regards to a little more accountability
Mhm.
in that.
I do
But
want to say our staff has done a really good job though,
I
of putting
don't
out
disagree with that.
learning
But,
opportunities for our students.
Yeah, and I think that, we're talking about in the fall, if this would, heaven forbid we have to do this again, any kind of remote learning going on, by that point, hopefully we would have something more established, just like Robert was saying, that was some instructional levels kind of clarified, and what they might be asked to do would be a little bit different than what they were asked to do this time, because this all turned on a dime.
Mhm.
And we've even had that conversation of, at certain levels, lower levels, would we focus just on reading and math?
They're just
That's where the
not-
focus is, and not so much on the other item. Not that they're not important, but I think we also need to be realistic. And so, but how you do that, at the high school level, when you have CTE and other things too, that's, there's not a lot of guidance there and ideas of access. So to answer your, I guess, part of this was, these are discussions that we've started. We've had them at committee levels, at least on the technology side. And we have some staff working on professional development. And then we'll be putting together a team, in regards to parameters and moving forward for the fall, with the idea of having more of a structured instructional and accountability for grading. And again, I think that needs to go through a committee. So it's not all of a sudden we're there in August, we're like, well, that's not what we wanted to do. Type of deal.
And there's probably more curriculum.
I think it's more curriculum.
You guys okay with it going to the curriculum? Me too. I'm great with that. I would like to make sure though that we have a plan in place for when they do come, like if we start in the fall, that we have made sure that we have worked with the other levels to see where they have left off, that we have a plan in place in case we maybe leave in October, or a plan in place if we're out for the entire year. Like, we need to know those plans and be able to, follow those immediately if that's what happens, if we come to that. Anybody else I want to say?
Get a chance, I think I forwarded this document that the guys gave, but if you have a chance and you haven't done it yet, it's got some interesting information in it about what to do during the summer to try to get ready for the fall. And a lot of things Angie just mentioned, a lot of things that Mark just mentioned, it's really informative.
It was a good article.
Yeah.
We will go ahead and move on. Did you have anything else about that? Okay. Opportunity for sharing by the board. I do want to just say to our staff members, our teachers, you guys have done an excellent job trying to work with our students through the remote learning thing that we're trying. To our maintenance people, our custodians have been coming in, our paraprofessionals have been coming in and doing work, our cooks, our administrators. I mean, everyone in our district really has worked really hard to help our students. So I just want to tell you guys all thank you for the hard work.
I agree.
Got two,
Sure.
actually, this time.
All
So first is a sign of appreciation for the Unit 40 Foundation for the parade they did for the scholarship recipients yesterday. It was not exactly the best of days. Part of it was good, part of it was challenging, but I think it really made a difference to those kids that came out and got to see some folks. I thought that was very nice, and wanted to say thank you for the foundation for coming up with that idea and doing that. It was 4.5 hours of a nice road trip around.
Jill was our navigator. I was the navigator. Jill was the person giving directions from her.
So maybe it should have only been a 3.5 hour.
Well, yeah,
We
shout
saw
out.
parts of
Yeah.
our school district we've never been in.
I've never seen before.
Country roads, I've never been down.
Yeah,
It
it was
was
very
fun.
nice. It was a very good time. And then the second one is the Adopt a Senior. Obviously, I have a senior this year, and having the Adopt a Senior program and what Kathy Hayes did for Austin specifically, and I'm sure all of the other seniors, was just fantastic. Having that connection and just getting some extra nice things and a sign of appreciation was really something special. I know he appreciated, and Mom and Dad really appreciated seeing that too. So that was very nice of the program. So I appreciate that.
Anything else? Okay. We would need a motion and a second to enter in a closed session for appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the district, collective negotiating matters between the district and its employees or the representatives, or deliberations concerning salary schedules for one or more classes of employees.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Robin. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Jill, roll call.
Steve,
Yes.
Angie,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Brad,
Yes.
Jill,
Yes.
Jane, yes.
To those of you who are joining us via YouTube, we will be closing the open session for now, and we will return after we are finished with the closed session.
Jason, you